Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome back to an all new Sermons in the Park. As always, I am your Reverend Jamie McCaskill. I want to take this time, like I do each and every week, just to welcome you all back to a new Sunday episode. Um, if you're watching on the video, you're probably noticing a sound quality difference. I got in a new microphone. What you didn't see, well, I guess you would have in the video. You'd have seen me lean way over here last time to adjust to mess with my podcast recorder. But I actually preach from a podium here in my living room, and when I do these videos, and with the new podcast mic and the computer and the podcast and the microphone that I was using, everything just got crowded. Okay, and um, so I bought a new microphone. It's a professional grade recording microphone for studios, and it comes with the pop filter, the everything, and it actually attaches to my podium. And it's actually like, instead of it being here, it's here, like right in front of me. So you're probably noticing a difference in sound quality, as well as now it's a pop filter. So if you were noticing any ringing or popping, that should technically be gone now. So before we get started, let's do like we do each and every week and thank our Heavenly Father for all the great and wonderful gifts that He's given us, all the things that He's going to continue to give us. He's a great and loving God, and He deserves all of our things. We should do that. You should do that when you wake up in the morning. You should do it before you go to bed at night. You should do it before you eat. Um, Honestly, guys, we don't give Him enough thanks. We should thank Him for everything that He does for us. Food, water. You hear me say it here. Um, so let's bow our heads and thank Him. Heavenly Father, we come to you today like we do every week here on Sermons in the Park, just to say thank you. You deserve all the thanks. You deserve all the credit for everything. The energy that we have to go to work, the energy we have to get out of bed, the wonderful feeling it feels after getting a good night's sleep, the the feeling of cold water in our mouths and the food when we eat it, the feeling of our pet's fur as we pet them, the feeling of love that we feel from our spouses or significant others, the the joy we get when we see our kids succeed in something. We thank you for all of that. It's all because of you. And we thank you for it. We thank you for the healing that you give us on a daily basis. We don't notice it sometimes. We don't notice the small things. And we thank you for those. And we thank you in the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. So, if this is your first time joining us here, number one, let me say, pause this video or podcast, go back in the archives, find the first episode of the Genesis one. If it's on the podcast, you might not find the first one. I'm just saying. I think I started it before. But go back and get caught up. Come back to and then make it back here and then hit play and hey, welcome back. So what we do here is we use a book in the Bible and we break it down, right? Book by book, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and sometimes, yes, word by word. We do that. I do that mostly with you just to help you understand what you're reading a little bit more, okay? Because sometimes, like I said, words, they change. A word's meaning will change. And where someone might look at that word now and get offended or confused, the word, we just break it down, okay? And I hope you remember where we stopped last week, because we were in chapter 19, and we stopped when Sodom was being destroyed, And the scene, it went back to Abraham, and Abraham was watching the destruction, right? And Lot and his family were in a town called Zoar, and his wife had been turned into a pillar of salt. And this week we're going to pick up right where we left off. So let's look at Genesis chapter 19, and we're going to read the last 8 verses, verses 30 through 38. Well, it's 9 verses actually. Fence post, as my old boss used to say. And Lot went up out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him. For he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father, let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. So what do? We always go back, right? We reread that first verse that we read. I know this was short. Give me a chance here. So we're going to go back and we're going to reread that first verse, which was verse 30. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. Now, isn't that interesting? We never get an explanation beyond that he, as the verse says, feared to dwell in Zoar. I think that it's possible that the people of Zoar, felt that he was responsible for what happened. Or maybe they were afraid that more judgment would come, right? And that it might hit their city. But I want you to remember, the angels told Lot that he should go into the mountains, remember? But what did he do? No, he told them that he wanted to go to this particular town. It was his stubborn human nature that wanted to do his own thing, right? Instead of doing what God said. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't this sound just a little bit familiar to us? Last week, when we read verse 29, we read how God remembered Abraham and saved Lot. It was not anything that Lot had done. No, it was because he was Abraham's nephew. And Zoar was one of the 5 cities which were in the Jordan Valley there. Okay? It was very, very close to Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, as we move on from here, we're going to read about how the immoral lifestyle of Sodom and Gomorrah, okay, had corrupted Lot's daughters, their thoughts, if you will. They come up with this plan. They formulate this plan to become impregnated by their own father. Don't forget, we're already told that these girls were virgins. His other daughters, they had married people in the town and they had died. And as far as they know, his daughters, the two that are with him, as far as they know, there are no other men alive on this planet. It was this fear, the fear that they would never have children, that causes them to commit this horrible, horrible sin. So let's look at verse 31 now. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Now, I want you to know that there is absolutely no excuse that you can make for what they did. No excuse for the daughters, and I'm sorry to say, no excuse for Lot. The only thing that we can say is that this is actual proof that the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. The Bible is quiet on Lot after this. We never see him again. And because of this, we can learn that drunkenness, just how it can make you very forgetful, can also make you forgotten. The daughters, they say, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. They're saying that there's no man to marry them now, no man to procreate with. These girls, they thought that the whole world had been destroyed. They know that the world would not be flooded again, right? But this was being done by fire, right? So they imagined that this was what happened, right? That in their hearts, they believe that everything has been destroyed. Not just Sodom and Gomorrah, but everything. They must have believed that Zoar was also consumed by this time. That there was no one left alive but them and their father. So they assumed that this sin that they're about to commit was excusable and that it was lawful, that they needed to repopulate the earth. But just like I said, this is not an excuse, okay? There's no excuse for this disgusting act that they commit. No matter how you look at it, no matter what you want to say, what kept them from consulting with their father here? Nothing. They could have asked him. Maybe he could have told them the truth. We don't know. The Bible does not tell us, does it? Let's go to verse 32 here. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. I think that Lot was just bewildered, okay? I really do. I think he was bewildered. I mean, they had narrowly escaped death. His wife was dead. So he left Zoar. He fled into the mountains, the ones that were at the east of the Salt Sea. He might have been afraid that Zoar would be destroyed. But it's also possible that the people of Zoar were panicking. Maybe they fled the area and they were dispersed among the mountains. The daughters said, Come, let us make our father drink wine. If you're like me, you might have thought to yourself, where did they get the wine? But then you know what I did? I realized something. Who said they didn't have the provisions? They probably just brought it with them. They had to have brought things to help them survive, right? So we have been sitting here considering these horrible things that Lot and his daughters did. Let us back up a second. Let's try to put this in a more pleasurable light. First off, they did not do this out of some lustful desire, did they? The daughters, they thought that the whole human race was being wiped out. That they were all that was left. So in their eyes, this was necessary. Secondly, the daughters, they could have also thought that it would have been unlawful for them to marry into any other family. They knew that if their father had chosen a husband for them, it would have been someone of their own kindred. And let us also, all right, look at the possibility that the son-in-laws that we spoke of earlier were their fiancés. Well, they were killed now, weren't they? Third, all right, come on. They might have believed that there was no way for them to preserve the family. And that would mean that in the righteousness that the family was known for would just be gone. If they hadn't, anyway, lastly, look at what they did. They knew that their father would not do this. And that is why they did what they did. They thought that it was necessary. They tried to sanctify something that was improper. And many people do this today, don't they? And this is something that you should never do. We discussed this in our review on Judges. Okay? They're acting on bad principles. They made their father drink wine. And what they did here was very evil in the sight of God. It's weird when you think about it, okay? Incest is still around today. And it's said that it usually started by the father. But when we look right here, this was initiated by the daughters. No matter how you view this, it's evil. It's a very evil plot that these two girls come up with. Look at verse 33 now. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. They persuaded their father to get drunk. It says, and they made their father drink wine that night. I see them sitting there with him, right? Drink more. Here, Father, here's some more. They do this to get him to cheer up. Because remember, he just lost his wife, their mother. And their sisters, if you believe like I do, that he had some married daughters. He also lost everything that he owned. But none of this, I want to make sure you understand this, none of this is an excuse to drink the way he did, no matter what we think. And you cannot say that he did not know how strong that wine was. If that was true, then how did his daughters know? The verse then tells us, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father. She went to bed with him, didn't she? She did what she should not have done. And she did it. She did it while he was drunk and insensible. Then it says, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. This tells us he did hear her come in. He felt her get up. He was dead drunk and probably fast asleep. He felt a woman get in bed with him, and he lay with her. Here's a thought. Maybe he thought that it was his wife. He forgot for a second, right, that his wife was dead because of how drunk he was. So he lay with her. All right, let's look at verse 34. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father, let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. It says, it starts off right there with, and it came to pass on the morrow. This tells us what? That it was the very next day after what we just read. Then it says that the firstborn said to the younger, behold, I lay yesternight with my father. So she's telling her that she succeeded. She had succeeded in what they were trying to do. And then she encourages her sister to do the same thing that night. And again, we see Lot does not know that she lay down with him. We read, let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. So these two, they want to have children with their father, so that the family line will go on. Now, when you are reading this, you would be excused in thinking, man, Lot's innocent here. I mean, sure. At his age, you could believe that a small amount of wine was all that he needed to get drunk. What we can tell is that he got drunk, and Lot had been willing to drink it, hadn't he? And as many of you know, drunkenness can cause many people, and by that, I mean drunk on alcohol or high on drugs. You tend to lose control of your will. Just look at the cases of child abuse, of wife beating, or even murder that has been connected to alcohol. Can you argue the fact that you need to be in control of your own will at all times? Can you deny that? God does not excuse you being drunk as a reason to sin. Never. Never in here do you read that. You know why? Because it's not true. If it was true, it would be in here. God does not excuse you. Oh, Jamie only did that because he was drunk. Ha ha, my son. No. God still goes, you did it. You committed that sin. Whether you were drunk or not, I don't care. All right. Now that I got that out of my system. Verse 35. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. Verse 35, and it says, and they made their father drink wine that night also. Again, this is they made him drink. This is an aggravation of his sin. He did the same thing again, didn't he? He got drunk again the very next day. If he stayed clear-headed, this would not have happened. Oh, but no. He was not clear-headed. So he was not on guard. Again, we see the same thing. The verse says, he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. If this is not showing you that the same thing can happen again and again and again if you let it, it's right there. All right, verse 36. Sorry I keep bumping the mic. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. Thus were both of the daughters of Lot with child by their father. We know that the best man or the best men will act the same when they're alone. A good man will be good. Amen. A righteous man, he will be righteous. When you see someone alone, that is who they really are. Look at Lot here. He's guilty of some of the most shocking crimes. That is who He really is. He was willing to expose his children to the disgusting men of Sodom. Look what we see happen here. He was the one who attacked his daughters, if you will. He had succeeded in getting them pregnant. So, what brought this on? Was him drinking heavily? Was that what it was? He got drunk. A sin. Like I said earlier. This leads to some of the worst crimes in history. So we should avoid it. Right? And here Lot was, alone in the mountains, living in a cave with his 2 daughters. We're led to believe in this story that Lot had stood his ground in Sodom. He did not fall, I should say, to its many temptations, to its many impurities. But here we see him fall when he was alone with his daughters. So this sin here, his sin, falling on what we know was a good man, we should see this as a warning that we should shun evil in all of its appearances, or we too will fall. Never trusting in our own understandings, our own strengths. You hear me say that all the time. I want you to take a look with me at a verse real quick. I want you to look at 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12. Paul says, "Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed, lest he fall." And yes, these daughters, they had committed a terrible sin. This sin was disgraceful, not only in the spiritual sense, but you could also bring about many birth defects as well. When you have a child during incest, you can cause a lot of birth defects. God, he sees this act as an abomination. There is no good that can come of this. Speaking of Lot, the original meaning is pebble. Hasn't this story made it clear that Lot was a very earthly man? Look at what happened here. The sin that we see committed, it comes right out of Sodom and Gomorrah. All these sins that we see committed in this story are the ones that God calls an abomination. Now, as we finish up this chapter, we're going to learn about 2 sons being born. They become the progenitors of Moab and Ammon. 2 groups of peoples who become Israel's long-standing enemies. All right. Verse 37. "And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab, the same as the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab." I find it interesting, all right, how close Moab is to Meab. Because Meab means from the father, which would allude to the incestuous conception, wouldn't it? Aben Ezra and Josephus, they both point this out. This shows us that she was not ashamed of it. She gave him a name that's bragging about it. Now, Hilaris, he disagrees. Okay? Hilaris says that it is a compound word and that it means laying with a father. Which is it any better, honestly? It points to the same thing. The verse goes on. "The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day." You may remember me talking about this when we were reviewing Judges. But The Moabites, they lived on the border of Canaan. They were always a trouble to Israel, always. The They originally inhabited the country that was northeast of the Dead Sea, between Jabbok and Arnon. Now, because his name is Moab, that would have been looked down on, okay? Like I said, we know from this verse that he becomes the father of the Moabites. And their ancestry, it goes all the way back to Terah, who was the father of Abraham. We know, right, that at some point they fell from grace. They warred with the Hebrew people. They started to worship the false god named Shemast. They were actually called children of Shamash. That's right. They started to sacrifice their children to Shamash. This shows us just how far away our sins can take us. This sin actually carried on for generations, getting worse and worse and worse. If you read Deuteronomy, you'll see that the Moabites, they were excluded. They were excluded from the congregation for 10 generations. And this was due to their sins. As I said, in the Bible, we see a lot about the Moabites. One good thing happens, and that happens in Ruth, because Ruth was a Moabite. She was in the ancestry of Jesus. Okay, we're going to look at the last verse in this chapter. We're going to look at verse 38, which reads, "And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami, the same as the father of the children of Ammon." Give me a second. Sorry about that. My TV started playing on its own. I had it paused, but it started working again. Anyway, let's read it again. "And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami, the same as the father of the children of Ammon unto this day." Read the opening again. It says, "And the younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami." His name means, and I kid you not, the son of my people. This is one, it's honestly not as obvious, is it? But again, she's saying that he is the son of her father, because she's saying that he is a relation of her own, right? The name literally means the son of my people. I've read where some, they attribute this to her being more modest than her older sister. But doesn't it seem that neither of them were sensible to what they had done, the crime that they committed? They seem to think that it was commendable or even excusable. The verse says, "The same as the father of the children of Ammon unto this day." Now the Ammonites, they lived close to the Moabites. Both of them were enemies of Israel. They also fell into idolatry as well. And Josephus tells us that these two sons begat the Moabites and the Ammonites, and that both of them inhabited, I'm going to butcher this name, but it's typed on my screen. I'm going to do my best to say it, Coel Assyria. Now, if we look at Psalm 83:8, let's read that. Assur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah. We see that both called children of Lot. Now, after this, we don't see or even read about Lot anymore. And I find it interesting that we never saw any towns named after Lot. But we should not conclude, right, that Lot was wicked. I want to make sure you understand that. I honestly do not believe he was wicked. We read about him in the New Testament. He is said to have an honorable character, and he's actually called just Lot. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 7. Second Peter chapter 2, verse 7. And delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. Now, like I said, this son is named Ben-Ami. He had very little to be proud of. I mean, seriously, his mother conceived him from his own grandpa. The Hebrew people, they saw this just as shameful as you or I do today. And they considered it a grave sin. And like I said, he's the father of the Ammonites. And the Ammonites were a nomadic people. They were so close to the Moabites that they were both called by the other's name sometimes. Even though the Ammonites would side against Israel, the Israelites were forbidden from attacking them. We know that their false god, Moloch, and they also made their children to walk through fire, right? Cruelty was part of their religion. Now, these people, they were destroyed by God. They had there is no connections to them today at all. Not even their cities survive today. Not even their cities. You're not going to find them anywhere over there. Now, here we are at the end. So, I want to thank you all for joining me here. Yes, I'm still working these 7 days a week. But we get to get things like this for the ministry. This is for the ministry. This recorder, this microphone. I'm getting new, even more ministry attire, things like that. All of this is for the ministry, so that I can get better videos out to you, get better audio out to the podcast, things like that. This is benefiting, right? And things are better at home. Bills are paid. I'm not worried about bills like my rent and my electricity and things like that. When I was at Custom Glass, oops, I didn't mean to say their name. When I was at my last job, I constantly worried about things like that. I was living, seriously, I kid you not. Anybody that knows me, if you're watching on YouTube, because you can on the podcast, because it won't let you, comment below, tell them, you know I was living day to day off of a card where I could draw my daily payoff. So, prayers work, guys. God blesses those God blesses us. He takes care of us. He gets us things we need. So I want to say thank you all for joining me here. Thank you for your prayers. Please continue to pray for me. I'll continue to pray for you. If you need prayer, guys, message me on Facebook or Twitter. I don't use Instagram. I have it, but I don't use it. But it still sends me stuff to my email when you guys message me there. So feel free to message me there. Thank you all. God bless you. And I hope to see you all here next week. And I hope you all enjoy the podcast episodes we've been letting out. I am planning more. I'm planning more on the demonology subject. Because I know that's one that people want to hear. They want to listen. You want to learn more about that type of stuff. You know, if you follow me, you know that I teach you guys things that you don't learn in church. Well, a church building, in your normal churches. I teach you things like that. I teach you about, your authority as a believer in God. Your some subjects in the Bible that many preachers consider taboo. I preach on that. I teach you on that. So thank you all for joining me here. Like I said, I pray the Lord continues to bless and keep each and every one of you. And I hope to see you all soon. Thank you and God bless you.